Welcome to another exciting episode of the Ripple Effect Podcast. I'm your boy Quattro,
I'm Diesel.
and let's dive into some of these amazing and interesting topics. Today we'll be talking about the color coding of food. We also will be talking about the importance of raising your zero. Our third topic will be, has red pill content ruined generations of men? And finally, we respond directly to your comments. All right, so let's dive in. The color coding of food. Ever notice how the color of the food you eat might be telling your body something? We're digging into the truth behind the color coding of fruits and vegetables and how each color actually nourishes a specific part of your body. This ain't about diet trends, it's about decoding nature's design. Let's dive in. So, when I found out that the color of food was associated with certain parts of your body, that just was like an enlightening revelation to me.
Blew my mind as well. For my whole life, I didn't realize that food was speaking that type of language to us. I didn't realize it had that effect on us.
And I always been one to say that, you know, when this planet and when we were created by the Creator, He gave us everything that we needed.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I see how the fruits and the color of the fruits and vegetables align with certain parts of our body, just reinforces that we have everything that we need. Like,
Yeah,
this was a good design. Like, whoever created us, whoever you want to call that higher power is, however we got here, they knew what they were doing,
right,
and they gave us
right.
everything that we needed.
Right.
You know, like literally.
Exactly. And when we were doing our research and coming to just looking into the different, I think we looked at a couple images, a couple of videos, but what was blowing my mind was the fact that you would think that these are things that we would learn in school, or that we would, learn within our own households, or that there would be some sort of quote unquote, US FDA program that is rolled out on a yearly basis to educate the populace about how you can just use food. But then, as I think about now, the flip side of that, if you want to be in control of the food supply, you can't educate people about why the food will you will remove yourself from that equation in a sense, because if you're trying to be in control of it and you don't, because that's why we don't have I think, what is that company, Modesto, they own all of the seeds.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, because they don't want people to grow their own food. That's why they pay this. Well, I've quote unquote, there's been allegations that the government is paying farmers not to farm. You know what I mean? So,
And furthermore, do you make more money off a healthy society or a sick society?
this is my point.
So when
We're not going to educate people on how to take care of themselves with the natural resources that the earth produces. We want them to eat what we want them to eat, because what we want them to eat is going to make them put them where we want them to be, which is in the hospital.
Contingent on pharmaceuticals.
Yes.
Doctors.
Mm-hmm.
All those things that are working against us inevitably.
Yes, sir.
We do have a video.
Yes,
to kick this segment off. So let's run that, and then we'll tap back in.
The color code of food. It's God's original barcode that allows you to become your own nutritionist when it comes to figuring out what you need at that time. Food that is red, that's for your vitality and your energy. The orange food, whether it's oranges, squash, this is for the boosting of your immunity. Green is for your digestive system and detoxing you. The purple, the blue, this is relaxation. This is what antioxidant kills the free radicals. The yellow is good for your brain.
Yeah.
So whatever feeling you have,
Right.
they are your internal guidance system to let you know something is off balance in you. So if you know the color coding of food, you don't have to know how to read all through the paragraphs of stuff that's on the back. Matter of fact, if it got a paragraph, it's not food. Matter of fact, if it got a barcode, it's not food.
Wow.
It's really an industrialized commodity posing as food. It's good tasting plastic, but it's not real food.
Hey, there you have it. He broke it down like God's design is impeccable.
Impeccable. Immaculate.
And perfect.
Perfectly made.
Perfectly made for imperfect people.
Yes. But as we saw, it's all here, it's all in our face. But if we don't know these things, then how can we do better? But now that we know these things, we can do better. And when it comes to our diet, when it comes to just what we're eating for snacks and what we're eating for dinner, just really transforming our whole approach and mindset and paradigm at the end of the day on food, and realizing that we can eat for nutrition as opposed to entertainment per se, or because it tastes good, or because I have a craving for this.
Yeah, or you like the taste of well-seasoned plastic, as he said.
Right, well-seasoned plastic. And when you put it in those terms, that's what I'm saying. Like if it's well-seasoned plastic, then the human body isn't designed to digest plastic.
Not at all.
So it's going to obviously cause some sort of harm to the body.
Yes, definitely.
So, being mindful of that, as we move forward in our lives is definitely, something to take into consideration and no longer take for granted. And, not being, adverse or against, I should say, again, eating your vegetables, eating your fruits,
No,
you know what I'm saying?
you need
and
it.
drinking your water.
That's all
All
we
the
should be
natural
eating.
resources. I saw a clip once. It was talking about. I was talking to a gentleman once.
Hmm.
I think I told you about it. The brother that works at one of the organic grocery stores.
Oh yeah.
And he was breaking down the difference between, again, grocery store and a pharmacy, and how he was like, when you come to an organic store, like in this case, it was a Mother's Market or Erewhon. He was like, out here we got another one called Co-op. Shouts out to all of them.
Hmm.
When you go to those types of stores, everything is quote unquote organic, meaning it was grown in the ground and it was pulled from the ground and it was put on the shelf.
Right.
There wasn't no chemical process in between. When we go get the food off the shelves or in the box, like you said, and it's pretty much refined plastic at the end of the day.
Yeah. What do you say? If it has a paragraph
Right.
of ingredients, it's not food.
It's not food.
Period.
And so we have to be conscious of that and know now moving forward that, we are what we eat.
He also said something that's going to have me looking at things different. He said if it has a barcode, it's not food.
Damn.
Which is interesting. When you look at the fruits and vegetables, they don't have barcodes. They have
They got the stickers
PLU
on them,
numbers.
but those in those PLU numbers I've learned, they matter.
Hmm.
So for example, if it's a 4-digit code,
Okay.
so let's just say 4407, I think that's the code for bananas.
Hmm.
But if it's a any 4-digit code on a piece of produce, that's just a quote unquote non-organic.
Mm.
So if it has a 94407, that's organic.
Okay. So I have to start with 9 for organic.
Start with 9.
Okay. It's
Now,
good
if you
to
go
know.
to a store like Erewhon, Co-op, those stores already only stock organic produce.
So all their stuff will start with 9.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. I'm gonna go check. Is Sprouts the same way?
Sprouts has organic produce, but they have non-organic
They
produce
had the
as
regular.
well.
Okay.
But they do have an organic produce section. You will see a 9 on the PLUs in front of all of the produce.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm starting to see more of the organic section and markets starting to expand
Yeah.
slowly but surely.
But here's not to cut your wisdom off, going back to, Uncle Norris, you know what I mean? He said, all we had was organic back in the day.
Right. Like this whole shock that organic, like this is this new epiphany, like organic. That's all we. And that's why Uncle Norris is like 90 years old too.
And that's what I was about to say. Here's why that matters, because we look at the silent generation, for example, and we wonder how they're able to grow so old and still be functioning, motor skills, whereas generations younger than them are dying of all these health issues. And it was because, as Unc said, all we had was organic back in the day because all you could quote unquote afford to do was grow your own food.
Yeah. And I think that's where we need to get back to.
I agree.
I believe that because I was sitting here thinking, you have all these people in government, like these congressmen that are like very old, and like the silent generation, they're hanging in there, like we don't. There's like how many you
So it's
got?
Gen X,
You got X,
then it's
millennial,
millennial, then it's Gen
Z,
Gen Z, Gen
Gen
Alpha,
Alpha,
Gen now we
Beta.
on Gen Beta. So that's 5 generations later.
You got 5 generations later, but the silent generations are still pretty much in play as it relates to our government and
Yes.
legislation and
Yes.
stuff like that. And so I'm like, wow, they sticking around for a long time. They weren't susceptible to the eating devices
All they
that
had was organic.
all
They
they had
didn't
was
have
organic.
was seasoned plastic.
No, they ain't had no seasoned plastic. And I'm interested to see how this new change of with RFK as it relates to our health and nutrition. He already banned red dye.
Yeah, I saw that.
He banned
I saw that.
no more fructose corn syrup can be
Saw that
used in
too.
beverages. So little things like that. I'm excited about those changes because it's inevitably like harming us.
I mean, personally, I've been doing a better job in drinking the proper water, so spring water.
Yeah, you still got to drink the right water. You just can't drink any water. It's all about the spring water.
Now, that don't mean if I'm on the go, I'm at 7-Eleven and I got to get a bottle of distilled that I'm not going to grab that distilled water.
Right.
But I am being more conscious of drinking spring water as well as mineral water, Topo Chico specifically.
Okay. Shout out.
Shouts out to them. And, and including some form of vegetable. Now, I do need to get better as far as my quote unquote dressings, but eating a salad a day, eating certain fruits, vegetables but making it a habit to do it on a day to day basis, as opposed to just eating out all the time or just eating steak and lobster, as some people would say. Because again, being mindful that we are what we eat, and now that we understand the color coding of food and what these foods actually mean, being conscious of making sure that we ingesting these things on a day-to-day basis to improve our overall health.
Yeah, the food affects your functionality as well. If you notice when you eat the junk food, the processed food, after you eat it, there's a sluggish feeling that you get.
We call it the itis.
Yeah, we call it the itis, but there's really something going on in your body.
We refining that we digesting that refined plastic.
Yeah, and it's like you become unmotivated, you become lackadaisical, lethargic. You become slow, and and in your everyday living and things that you got to do. But compare that to when you're eating like a healthy diet, when you consume the salad and the fruits and vegetables, you get energy.
Yeah,
it's like you're like vibrant, you're more alert, you're more on focused. And it's a drastic dynamic on the effects of healthy clean food compared to processed genetically modified foods.
I'm learning as well that there's some parenting styles, as I've learned the language, but there's some parenting styles that are rooted around the kid not ingesting anything quote unquote refined or seasoned plastic. So I have some of my buddies. One of my buddies, he says that his daughters have never had soda, or they don't drink juice or sodas or things of that nature.
Good.
Anything with, like I said, that corn fructose syrup.
Mm-hmm.
So all they do is drink water at
Good.
the end of the day.
That's how.
And it just goes to show that as a parent, being conscious of that and understanding that you are raising a child, and the habits that you instill in them as a youth ideally are habits that they're going to carry on into throughout the rest of their life. And so equipping them with just that habit of quote unquote eating clean early will prevent or minimize, I'll just say, the probability of them becoming quote unquote a junk food jockey.
Right. and even in my own life, I was what you call I'm gonna make this term up now. A juice baby.
The juice baby.
I was one of those kids that always had juice in my bottle. Like I just needed some juice in my bottle, and I could still feel the comfort of having that juice bottle in a weird way. I don't know if that makes sense, but I could still feel how that made me feel. Like having that full bottle of juice or red juice in there, just be going to town. So it took me a long time to free myself from drinking juice. I don't drink juices now. Like I drink 90% water, everything that I drink. And if I do drink a juice, is a fresh squeezed orange juice or fresh apple juice or 100%, of that nature. But it took a long time because as I became an adult, I was like this juice fiend. Like I would drink a half a gallon of juice in like
One sitting.
yeah, in like 10 minutes.
One sitting, right? One
You know,
cup.
that's I've seen the memes, but they say if you know you know, but uh, uh an open container of Minute Maid juice only lasts about 5.2 seconds in the household because you go back, you pouring it up, chucking it down. So it took me a long time to get off juice. I've been off juice for years now, like over like 20 years that I was able to get that, crave out of my
Mm.
system.
So what was some of the, did you have to go to JA for that?
Go where?
To JA?
JA?
Yeah.
Who's that?
Juice Anonymous?
I'm like, what? No, I didn't go to JA.
You didn't go to JA, but it sounded like you went to JA. You know what I'm
It
saying?
sounded like I needed to,
Yeah.
for sure, because I was definitely like a juice sugar fiend. And so, yeah, so things just to be mindful of. We just try to tap into our better selves.
Exactly. So in closing, is there any closing remarks that you'd like to share before we move
Well,
on
I
to our
got
next
one more
topic?
video that I could show,
Okay, let's
just
do
for
it.
something
Let's
that
do it. Let's do it.
enlighten you,
Let's do
something
it.
that
Let's
you
do
could
it.
take away with and just look into, just so you know when you're in these markets and trying to do, like if you're on certain diets, if you're trying to gain weight, lose weight, or if you need help sleeping, or if you're trying to lose calorie or a less caloric diet or whatever. This is a video that just helps, put things in context as it relates to the fruits and vegetables.
The fruit with the highest protein is guava. The fruit with the lowest protein is watermelon. The fruit with the highest calories is dates. The fruit with the lowest calories is lemons. The fruit with the highest fat is avocado. The fruit with the lowest fat is strawberries. The food with the highest sugar content is honey. The fruit with the lowest sugar content is raspberries. The fruit with the most fiber is blackberries. The fruit with the least fiber is pears. The fruit with the highest vitamin C is kiwi. The fruit with the lowest vitamin C is apples. The fruit highest in antioxidants is pomegranate. The fruit with the fewest antioxidants is bananas. The fruit with the highest vitamin B6 is passion fruit. The fruit with the lowest vitamin B6 is cherries. The fruit with the highest magnesium is pineapple. The fruit with the lowest magnesium is mandarin. The fruit with the highest vitamin E is mango. The fruit with the lowest vitamin E is plum.
That brings us to our next segment, the importance of raising your zero. What if your zero wasn't zero anymore? What if 1,000 in your account felt like rock bottom? Not because you're broke, but because your standards have been raised. In this segment, we're talking financial discipline, mindset shifts, and what it means to elevate your baseline for success. Let's dive in. I love this topic
Hmm.
because this is something that I implemented and didn't know that there was a term for this
Me too.
from
Me too.
raising your zero,
Me too.
because I actually like I just read, like my zero now is $1,000. Like if I don't have $1,000 in my account, I'm like, that's zero. Like that's my zero. Like I can't go below that. It has to stay. That has to stay there at all times
Hmm.
for things to be coming in and out. You don't want no overdraft fees, you don't want no late fees and stuff like. So if I just keep 1,000 in my account at all times, I'm good. But the flip side of that, I had to realize that if I have $900 in my account and someone asks me, can they borrow $20? I had to realize that it's okay to say I don't have it.
Yeah.
Because I don't. Because my baseline is
Your
1,000.
standard.
Yeah, that's all that matters.
Yeah.
When it comes to my
Facts.
paper, like my standard is like, and I had to get, because a lot of times I would dip into that and feel as though that I had, the money to give or whatever the case may be. And that was something that my mom always instilled in me, like you need your money.
Have your boundaries.
Yeah, have your
Respect
boundaries.
yourself.
Yes.
Discipline.
Right.
Financial discipline.
Exactly.
So before we get deeper into the topic, let's go ahead and roll that first video, and we'll be right back at you.
I read a stat back then, and it said 70% of people don't have $1,000 in savings. They don't have $1,000 for a rainy day. Then I saw another stat that said an extra $500 a month can keep most families out of bankruptcy. Then I saw another stat that said most divorces are caused because of finances. And I said, whoa, I think I want more. If you have $1,000 for a rainy day, you're doing better financially than 70% of the world. I said, I want to have that. So I had to, what I call, raise my zero. When I was broke, that meant I have $0. I have no money. I'm looking at my account. I don't have any money. When I finally decided that I wanted more, I said, man, I got to save $1,000. What I started to do was budget. I was working at the Cheesecake Factory, so I have tips, and I had these 3 envelopes. One envelope, I would save 10%, but this first envelope was really important because I had a goal of I wanted to save $1,000. At this point, I didn't have anything at all. I would spend everything that I had. So this envelope started to grow. It was the coolest thing. I remember the envelope going from the first time I put $10 in to it having 100 to having $400. And I'm like, yo, this is incredible. And then I got to 600, then I got to $1,000. And I remember saying, wow, I am better than 70% of people. Maybe not better, but that's how I felt at the time. This $1,000 became so important to me. The $1,000 became my zero. So if I ever had $1,100 and I had a blowout of a tire, and the tire cost $200, I got to take $200 from this envelope, this $1,100, then I got to $900, and I felt broke because my new zero is 1,000. My zero used to be zero. If I didn't have anything, I didn't have anything. If my mom asked me for some money, said, hey, can I borrow $20? If I didn't have $20, I'd say I don't have $20. But now my new zero is 1,000. So I might have $950 in my savings. But if my mom asked me for $100, I would tell her truthfully, I don't have it. I'm broke because my new zero is 1,000. But I always remember, if I ever had to take away from this $1,000 because it's an emergency, I have to pay it back. So this is my journey of saying, I just want to have more than nothing.
He couldn't have said it more clear than I did.
Now, let's break that down.
Let's do that.
First and foremost, it starts with mindset.
Correct.
You gotta be in the right state of mind. And by the right state of mind, how you do things. I saw something before I came over today. It said, it was Jim Rohn. He was talking about success isn't what happens to you. Well, success isn't based on what happens to you. Success is based on what you do. So when it comes to finances, when it comes to finance ain't about, like, oh, like I have this job, or I didn't get this promotion, or, I had this bill spring up on me.
Mm-hmm.
That's not what it's about. Financial success is about, okay, well, I consciously make a decision to set my zero at $1,000. So no matter what happens, no matter who needs it, no matter what I want, if I got $999 in my account or my primary account, I'm broke.
Right.
Like, I'm broke.
Right. Dead ass.
Dead ass broke.
Yeah.
But it's like a mind game you have to play for yourself, and you set the board up in your mind. And so once you set the board up to, your zero was 1,000, now you're able to now operate from a perspective of, now when you see $1,000, you don't see $1,000. So if you got $1,500 in your bank account, it's not 1,500, it's just 500.
No, it's not. No, it's not.
And it's really like, I got $500.
Yeah.
And it's like that 1,000 just sits there in a sense as a cushion, or as for emergencies or whatever could happen, because again, life will happen.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You will have emergencies.
And you could take baby steps to this method, this
the
discipline
envelope method, like you said.
You can even do 10%, or you could raise your zero to $100.
Mm-hmm.
And it, once you get to, anything under 100, you like, yo, I'm broke. then you could have 500. It could be whatever, 1,000, or you could, if you got money, you could like 50,000. Once it go below 50,000, I'm broke or whatever the case may be. But there's levels to it, and it's it's subject to how you want to do it, what works best for you, where you are with your money, and what your goals are. So I like the 10% method. I tell all my
The Richest Man in Babylon.
well,
That's where that comes. Well, that's one of the main financial literacy books. Once you start studying financial literacy, that's like one of the core pillars is reading that book. And it's basically, the whole point of the book is every time you make $1, you take 10% of that and you keep it, and you
yeah,
invest it. And that's where you start. That's the foundation.
yeah,
You start at 10%, ideally with the goal of raising it to 20. In my mind, I want to, my ideal dream goals would be to be able to invest 90% of my income,
yeah, and live off the 10.
live off the 10.
Yeah, that would be ideal.
That would be ideal for me. And once I get to that point, like that'll be in my mind like nirvana, because that will be a representation that I have created enough value in the world to be able to do that.
Yeah,
And that 10% though is still gonna be whatever it's gonna be. It's gonna be enough to take care of me and mine, but the
and
majority of that's getting invested.
and you'll thank yourself for this, because life will start lifing.
Hmm.
Things will happen. There's the sun doesn't shine every day of the year. There are rainy days, there are storms. And so with that being said, there's going to come a time where, something goes wrong with your car. And
Facts.
there's going to come a time where there's an accident where somebody might hit your car that you had parked, perfectly parked. And, there's going to come a time where, there's
Life
the
happens. Life
water
will life.
the water pipe busts in your house or something, and life things happen. So it's better going through life always having a cushion or egg for emergencies, because emergencies will come. But and then a lot of times those emergencies, if you're not prepared for them, they really can set us back, and then we're playing catch up, and then we're robbing Peter to pay Paul. Then we taking money from creditors and borrowing money, and which is continually putting us further and further back.
Hmm.
So it's a great practice to have implemented in your everyday finances, because it only benefits you, because trust me, shit is going to happen.
So, for example, when I look at the implications, the long term implications of raising your zero, as time goes on, you'll eventually mentally get to the point where it becomes a game, because
Hmm.
that's kind of where I'm at with it right now.
Hmm.
So first it's 1,000, then it's 2,000, then it's
Hmm.
3,000, then it's 4,000, and
Hmm.
it's to the point where you become obsessed with it.
Hmm.
Now, how is that going to show up in real life though? To the people who are used to you being a quote unquote spender, they're going to start saying that you've changed, because you're most likely not going to be going out as much. You're not going to be spending money on the things that you typically would have spent money on, because now you're
Facts.
trying to keep the money.
Facts.
And they're going to, people are going to say that you're broke, or that you're being cheap, or you're not generous, or things of that nature. But the reality is, again, what game you playing, what outcome you striving to get to. And if you raising your zero constantly, then that's what it is, regardless of how other people feel about it, because they're going back to paradigms. They're moving off of a different paradigm. So I got another way of explaining paradigms.
Okay, let's go for it.
This is perfect. So, I've been doing research in the billionaire belief, and so go check it out. I got a new video out right now, the three core billionaire beliefs. But when I was doing research for that video, one of the things I learned was going back to vision. So we got the old economy now, and we got the new economy.
Hmm.
So the old economy was where the baby boomers thrived for the most part. Silent generations kind of introduced it, but it's where the baby boomers thrived. It's where the Generation X had to ride the coattails.
Hmm.
But us millennials, us Gen Z, Gen Alpha, Gen Beta, we're now ushering in a new economy. We as millennials are now what the silent generation was, to the old economy, quote unquote. So we got old economy, new economy. So to as a metaphor to represent these two economies, we'll use the old economy being, a physical map, and then the new economy being GPS.
Okay.
So nowadays, what I'm seeing is the quote unquote the tension between the generations, or between the old economy and new economy, is now you got the baby boomers who are operating off of a map, a print map, trying to tell the newer generations, or the people of the new economy, like what direction to go in.
Mm-hmm.
But the newer generation is just like, nah, like the path you telling me to go in, it don't exist no more.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going off this GPS, and the GPS says it don't exist no more, because unlike your print map, which is stagnant, it's static. It is, once it's printed, that's all that's it's a last quote unquote update.
Yep.
But from the time it's printed to now, 50 years later, you know what I'm saying, a lot has changed.
Things have changed.
And so we now need real time updates. We need directions in real time now.
Mm-hmm.
And we have that with a GPS. So the real time directions say, I don't have to go to college.
Mm-hmm.
If I just master a skill, and I just be consistent and put my effort into making it happen, then I can create a sustainable lifestyle for myself. I can earn a living, a lifestyle. I can create a business for myself.
Mm-hmm.
That's one example. But then you got the old generation say, no, you got to go to college. You got to get your education. You got to get it, because you're going to need a good job. You're going to need to be able to take care of yourself. You want to be successful, right?
Uh-huh.
But again, that success is based upon the print map. It's
Right.
not based on the GPS.
Right.
So moving forward, when it comes down to finances, things like raising your zero, I'm pretty sure it's a concept that's been around for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
But it's still, in a sense, not the print map version of life, or the paradigm that we're given, or the American dream, in a sense.
Mm-hmm.
That's the map we're given. That's the print map, I should say. Go to
Mm-hmm.
school. But that map, it ain't been updated since the Industrial Revolution.
Mm-hmm.
You feel me? Now we got GPS. We got the internet, quote unquote. So we
Mhm.
can learn in real time.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
I was just watching this video. It's kind of off the topic, but pertaining to what you're saying about the GPS and the map standard, or the conflict. It was this video when a younger guy was talking to his, I think it was uncle or an older guy,
Mhm.
and the young guy was like, I'm scared of becoming like your generation, talking to the older guy. And so the older guy was like, "Are you really fearful?" He was like, "Yeah, I'm fearful. Like working a job, going to school for 12 years, coming out getting a mediocre job and that you don't like, and you complaining about it. You always tired. You never got enough money. Like we don't want that. Like whatever the case may be." So the older guy said, "Well, why don't you listen? If you listen, we can guide you so you don't have to be like that." He was like, "No, you can't." You
Mhm.
can't guide us because you're telling us to listen to this map.
Just print
And
map.
you talking about, and on your map, you got the 405, but since that map was made, there's 6 to 7 more exits that verge off the 405 that
Yeah.
get you to your destination
Facts.
faster. And and so that's the mindset the younger generation is working from.
Mhm.
So let's try to like kind of understand them and not be so combative.
Oh, I understand them.
Oh yeah, I'm not talking about you. I'm
No,
talking about
I'm just saying, right? Like,
yeah.
but it's just like, yeah, I understand them, because when it comes, again, raising your zero it's not a new concept, but it will be something somebody that is operating off GPS is doing,
I would agree.
as opposed to that print map, because that print map is based upon, again, consumption. It came out in the 40s or 50s. You know what I'm
And,
saying?
and it is what it is. If I'm broke, it's broke. Zero is zero. But if you're trying to go places, you got to raise that zero, so you can afford the life challenges that come to you, absorb those, and get to your destination, whether it's a financial destination or a physical destination.
But even when we quote unquote pause from this concept to look at just the biggest picture of life, as you just said, the map, the print map, and GPS still applies, because the universal paradigm of life is that print map. back in the 40s and 50s, this is what it meant to be successful. This is the path you have to take. And if you don't do this, then you're going to not be successful, or you're going to be exiled from the community, blase, blase.
Pretty much.
Now, but again, as we will quote unquote evolve, now we got this thing called GPS, aka the internet, and the internet allows us to look at what the map is. It's constantly adjusting because there's things happening on a moment to moment perspective, mile to mile. The last mile wasn't like the last mile. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Real time. You know what I'm saying? We need real time directions now. We can't rely off of just plotting out some course based upon a map. That ain't, like, to your point, it ain't even got the updated version of the 405 freeway on it.
Right.
You feel me? But again, that's life. And that's what's happening on a day-to-day basis from generation to generation. And so you're going to have, the people who are operating on the map call the people using the GPS, we'll just say, like, the radical thinkers. But again, it's because of the radical thinkers that we have things like GPS.
That's why you have everything.
At the end of the day, when it comes to raising your zero, going back to now, the financial component of it, it's like you got to realize that within your world, within your economy, you know what I'm saying, you the president of that, you the CEO of that. So, what's your policy? What's your plan? And if you make a decision that I could have $999 in my account, and if my girlfriend wants to go out to eat and I tell her no, I'm broke, and that's what it is. I don't care if you can see $1,000 in my bank account.
And I think your zero should be confidential to you. Like, your zero shouldn't be, something that you, like, in that instance when you're talking to your mate or significant other, and they want to do something. He's like, I'm broke. Because when you say you broke and you don't have, when you say you don't have it, it should be left there. If someone knows that you always have $2,500 in your account, especially when you dating a female, like, she's gonna try to get what she want. Like, well, you ain't really broke. You got it. So I think it might work in our advantage if the zero that you set for your finances is something that you keep to yourself and that you adhere to without telling, your wife or your children and stuff like that, because they're gonna try to get it out to you. You're gonna have to, bad enough, you're gonna have enough discipline for yourself not to touch the money. But the other people asking you for it, they don't even want no discipline to not ask you for no money. So they're gonna try. They're like, oh, I know you got it. I know you got it. I know you got an uncle. I know you got a dad. I know you got a mom. I know. I seen your account. You got it. Yada yada. Like, don't even let nobody know what your zero is. Let your zero be your zero. And when you say you don't got it, you don't got it. Period.
That's actually an interesting take. In my opinion, I think it would be best to let them know, for the simple fact of that's how you instill the financial literacy in them. That's how you teach it.
Well, we're teaching them one way, but for you, you don't need to know what my personal zero is.
Well, if I have a mate, if I'm by myself, I would agree. Like, yeah, like, I'm single. But if I do have a mate, then again, like, alignment. Like, we do need to be in alignment on our zero,
because she'll have a zero too.
But it's our house. Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, I don't understand the point of quote unquote being in any form of exclusive relationship with any woman personally, where we're not on the same page when it comes to that type of stuff.
I agree.
Like, personally, like, it's just, I've never understood, like, why would you form a union to then still operate as single entities?
Yeah, I agree 100%. Like, if you married and you're in a relationship, like, yeah, you definitely communicating, y'all on the same page. But there's
like
a lot
business partners.
There's a lot more other people that's in that try to get your money other than just the person.
Now, so for example, now, as if let's just say, hypothetically speaking, it's me and my mate, me and her. Now, our zero, as far as me and her is concerned, like, yeah, we both need to know that. So if it's $1,000, it's $1,000. So if my Uncle Larry or her Auntie Stacy come in and ask us, oh, I know you got it, it's just like she knows already, like, nah, no. Or I know already, like, no. Because it's like I said, I already see we at 990 right now, baby. You know what I'm saying? So the answer is no. Period. As opposed to just, in my opinion, like, that's where the tension comes, or the financial, strife comes, because again, the man is doing something without the wife knowing, or the wife is doing something without the man knowing. Now both of them is feeling some kind of way about the situation, and now with tension in the marriage, and then inevitably we see through the the data,
Mm-hmm.
it leads to separations and divorce.
Mm-hmm.
And so if we can have these discussions early and establish these positions early, in my opinion, I think that it'll relieve a lot of the tension financially that a lot of couples experience because y'all on the same page, y'all are
Of
in
course.
alignment. You know what I'm saying? Y'all both know where y'all zero is at. It's at
Right.
1,000. It's at 2,000. It's at 5,000. You know what I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying? So, and even with the kids, how are they supposed to learn these values? Because again, we're not just raising this zero for the sake of just raising the zero. We doing something with this money. We invest in it. You know what I'm saying? So the next generation got to know how to keep the show going.
Mm-hmm.
So we got to teach. In my opinion, it has to be again. Wealth begins at home. So it has to be a one family thing. You know what I mean? Like where everybody's on the same page. We all know what it is because again, we all going down the same path, trying to achieve the same common goal as a household, as opposed to just individually. Again, and everybody's trying to go 5 different ways. Now everybody's stretched.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So
Raise
yeah.
to zero.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I agree 100% that the person that you're married to or whatever the case may be, like y'all definitely have to be aligned as far as finances, how you save finances, spend finances. If you have joint accounts, of course, that got to be the
You
language
will have a
between.
joint account.
That got to be the
You're
language
still an
between us.
adult. You know what I'm saying?
That got to be the language between us. Like our zero in this account would be $1,000. So
Mhm.
anything once it go below that, we don't got it. We got to get it back to that. And as it relates to everyone else, I was speaking more so than all the other hands that be trying to get in your pocket and
Oh, yeah, they're not in our household. Yeah, it's none of their. It ain't none of their business what our
right.
zero
So
is. You
yeah,
know
that's
what
what I'm
I'm
saying. Like
saying?
keep your zero to
You feel
you and
me?
your household,
That
so to
includes your
speak.
parents, your
Yeah, your
brothers, your
parents.
sisters.
And I argue about the kids because all you could teach the kids, and then
Bring them along, of
as they get
course.
older, then
Right, you
you
bring
can
them
reveal
along, of course,
things as they go older. Like when
of
they get
course,
to the age
because
of
the kids
when they can
they can be chatty patty.
they
You know
be
what I'm saying? So
chatty, and
they'll say
all
things
they
out
know
of
is what they
turn.
want.
Yeah,
All
right.
they know is what they want. So
So we got another video, man. Let's go ahead and bust that video down real quick.
Too often I'm hearing people complain about how hard it is to save money. And right on payday, they're out frivolously spending, loaning, giving away their hard-earned dollars, fast food trip after fast food trip. Look, your problem isn't saving money, okay? Your problem is raising your zero. You haven't risen your zero. I can tell. Look, raising your zero is raising the amount that you actually consider yourself broke. So, if your zero is at $100 and that's all you have to your name, and the little ones come ask to go on a little McDonald's trip, because they love them Happy Meals, right? Guess what? You ain't got no McDonald's money because you broke. If your mom asks for just a couple of dollars because, she loves to hit the penny slots at the casino, I'm sorry, mama. Can't do it. I'm broke. Look, you may hurt some feelings, but you ain't gonna hurt your pockets, though.
Yeah, I like that.
hey, you may hurt some feelings, but you ain't gonna hurt your pockets. I like that.
So it's about
Put that on a T-shirt.
facts. So like, shouts out to my man. We gotta get a T-shirt made, but yeah, man, that's what it's. But again, going back to mindset, that's why I said it begins at mindset. That has to be your mindset, though. Like, I may hurt feelings, but I'm not gonna hurt my pockets. Because again, when it's all said and done, and when life is happening, you and your pockets is gonna be glad that you raised your zero to whatever you have risen it to. Because again, the people who was asking you for all the McDonald's and the penny slot money and all the Gucci bags and the exclusive trips, they go appreciate it too when life happened and you go be Superman to them saving the day. You feel me? So raise that zero. And personally, going back, I'm just a stickler on language. So instead of saying I'm broke,
Yeah, that kind of that pierced me too.
right? Instead of
Like I don't
saying
want to
I'm
say
broke, how about we just say it's not in the budget
I don't got it.
or I don't got it.
I don't got it to give.
That's what I'm saying. It's not in the budget. Like,
Yeah.
but that's why it's important in having a budget because that's what I was gonna say as well. I was looking at an article in one of like them CNBC Money, one of those type of articles. Excuse me. And then it was talking about it was doing a reviewing the budget of a couple who combined made, I think, about like over 250,000. But it was just showing how the money comes into one account. Both but I think the woman earned more than the man, but all the money still came into one account. Then from that one account, you know, they paid all of their respective household bills as well as personal retirements and student loan debts. And then whatever was left over, then they, you know, gave themselves an allowance. And then whatever was left over after the allowance went back into savings or retirement or investing, whatever they decided, or fund. No, I think that whatever was left after they put the allowance went into like a fund account so they can afford, you know, going out to eat or, you know, buying each other, you know, toys or exclusive gifts, doing stuff with the kids. And then, boom, you know what I'm saying? They live their life. So to your point, like, yeah, just because you and your mate are going off or, you know, operating financially off of one pot, it don't mean that you not go have, you know, personal accounts. Right. Again, you still go have an allowance. But again, everything is coming through that one pot. So think of it kind of like a tree, for example, and that, you know, the trunk of that tree is that one account. But again, yeah, that one account is going to branch off into two different, you know, things for your personal account, his personal account. And at some point, it's going to be the kids' accounts. You know what I'm saying? And if you so choose, anything else you want to have. But that your financial tree in that regards, you know what I'm saying? Ideally, yeah, you want that motherfucker to have a lot of branches on it. You feel me? You want it to be the biggest possible tree it can be to provide shade, you know, for generations to come. You know what I'm saying?
You want a nice big old oak tree.
Big ass tree, you feel me? One of them sequoias, you feel me? Like, that's what you want. So financially, like that's how you, but again, you're not gonna get there if you're not raising that zero.
I know a girl named Sequoia.
Sequoia is raising that zero, you feel me? Like
Sequoia.
Financially, shouts out to Sequoia. But that's how you. But again, it's my goal. That's why I said it begins with mindset at the top of the topic section. So
yeah, good. I mean, that's good. I mean, I think this is some good information.
Yeah, raise that zero, baby.
To raise your zero. You know, start thinking about it. You don't got to do it today or tomorrow, but put it in your mindset. Put it in your brain. Like this is something that you want to achieve. You know, and if you think about it long enough and contemplate it and see it be done, you know, it'll be a thing of the past before you know it. Easy.
So regardless of how you feeling, you know what I mean? So in closing, not in closing, we got one more video and then we'll close it out. So
all right, yeah, let's
get that last video and then we'll come back and then we'll close it out.
Check this out.
Changing my zero, right? All right, Jay, what do you mean by that? Most people's definition of broke is when they're broke. Meaning, most people say, when I don't have any money, now I'm broke. Or for some people, they say, when I don't have any money and I max out my credit cards, now I'm broke. But what if you said, when I've got $10,000, I'm broke? That means when you got $10,050, you only got $50. So you can only spend $50. That means when you got $15,000, you've only got $5. The problem is, most of us let institutions tell us. Most of us let credit card companies tell us when you can't spend anymore, when you're no longer allowed to. What if you just simply change your definition of zero? See, for me, my first definition of zero was $1,000. Then I changed it to 10. Then it went to 50. Then it went to 100,000. What if your new definition of zero was when you had $1 million? What if it was when you had $10 million? Do you see how that little discipline, it can just start? See, at the beginning, what you're looking for is discipline, not money. Why? Because the disciplines allow, so when you start making more money, the discipline of it will make you start keeping it. Simple way for you to start making more money now is just simply change your zero. Your definition of broke now is what?
And you know what? I just thought about something listening to this guy. It gives you a goal when you like want to raise your zero. Like say if you start at 100 and then it's like, now I want my zero to be 500. Like it gives you something to now you're not just saving money and sitting on it. Like you said, it's a game. It's like, okay, all right.
It's that anticipation
dopamine. I gotta get to 500. Then when you at 500, you're like, all right, I'm at zero. I'm here.
Yeah.
And so now from here forward, you might take a little couple of weeks to, you know, spending the excess of the 500 at that point, you know, go treat yourself to a meal, go buy your pair of shoes or something, go, you know, take your lady out or something. You might do something, but you at 500, you know, you achieve that goal. And then, so that's what I just thought. I said, I think I'm going to raise my zero. Just
I
in this
mean,
moment, I was like, you know what?
I'm raising mine. No, I've been in the process mentally of raising mine because, like I said, it's at 1,000. Now it's like, oh, I got to get to 2,000.
Yeah, I think I gotta raise mine to
I
two
felt,
thousand.
I some kind of way. I told myself initially 1,500, but I was like, nah, like I'm not challenging myself enough.
Yeah,
But that's the game part of it that you
yeah,
play with yourself and anticipation and the dopamine hits but again, seeing it and then so to your point, we wonder how quote unquote the rich stay rich and why the poor stay poor.
mm,
This is specifically why.
mm-hmm.
No discipline, like he said, because the more money you make, if you don't have that discipline, then again you just
The more you
spending, the spending. So that's why when we see people win the lottery, they in bankruptcy in a couple of years. Or when we see these athletes, these entertainers, they make all these millions of dollars, and then after their career, the check stop coming in. Now they in bankruptcy court.
Right,
Even just the average American, the average individual on planet Earth, they live in a check to check lifestyle because they just not raising a zero.
Facts.
That's the only reason why they're doing that. Because as he said, you waiting on the banks and the credit card entities to tell you when you can't spend, as opposed to you telling yourself what you can spend and what you can't spend.
Facts.
Having that financial discipline, as he said. So moving forward, now we know why the rich stay rich and the poor stay poor, or why people become millionaires and billionaires and not, because they're not raising a zero.
Yeah.
They're not raising a zero because again, we're not just raising that zero just to have the money to sit there. Because again, that zero money is it is there, but you putting it to work. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
High interest savings accounts, you put it in stock money market accounts. It doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
But at the end of the day, mentally, it's like I said, it's a mindset. It's a mind game. You disciplining yourself. You telling yourself what you can and you can't spend. Regardless if you're talking to yourself, your loved ones, or anyone else. You know what I'm saying? Like, no, because my zero is at 5,000. It don't matter if you saw that I got $3,000 in my bank account. As far as if my zero is 5,000 and I got $3,000 in my account, it's like I'm in the red to the bank $2,000.
I'm in a hole,
and that's a problem.
Yeah, I'm in a hole.
I gotta fix this problem. You looking at it as like you got $3,000, but I'm looking at I'm 2,000 in the hole.
Yep, that's exactly
mindset, perspective. Map, GPS. You feel me?
Right. I think I looked at my checking account today, and it was like $900 something. I was like, oh no, like, I'm at a deficit. I'm at,
and it's crazy because, and it's like but it's like a gift and a curse in that, when you have this level of financial discipline, you can see, the error in other people's ways, but just how people are just living in their own reality.
Right.
Because again, it's like, just like I said, like, yeah, I can have $990 in my bank account, but if you like, let's go out to eat tonight. No, I ain't got it.
Not tonight.
It's just not in my budget. Like, nah, I can't go. Like, oh, you broke. Like, yeah, I'm broke. And then, like I said, my thing now is whatever they say is like, yeah, I'm that. Oh, you broke? Like, yeah, I'm broke. Like,
I'll be broke. I guess I'm broke.
Yeah, I'm broke. You know what I'm saying? Like, oh, you cheap? Yeah, I'm cheap. You know what I'm saying? Oh, you not generous? Yeah, I'm not generous. Like, oh, you want to donate to this cause? Like, nah. Like, I don't.
Yeah. So
thank you.
So let's be mindful of our finances. We always try to bring, try to make us well-rounded people and individuals, and positive people in society. So we always got to have a money finance segment to what we present to y'all. So this is just another aspect of it, of raising your zero, so you can have for a rainy day. So, when life challenges are thrown at you, you're not overtaken by it. You can keep thriving and striving.
Mm-hmm.
Anything else?
Well, that does it for me. No closing remarks. I pretty much gave them, so I can go ahead to the next topic.
Raise that zero.
But yeah, raise that zero. Remember, mindset, baby.
And I want to hear the comments. I want to hear how many people have risen their zero.
What have you risen it to?
Yeah. Where did you start at? Where you at now? And do you find this to be beneficial to you? So when y'all are rippling and the ripples are rippling, give us feedback on this raising of the zero, how it works for you. Interested to hear about that. Going into our next topic, has red pill content ruined generations of men? The red pill movement started as a wake up call for men, teaching self discipline, purpose, and awareness. But somewhere along the way, it turned toxic. So we're asking the real question: has red pill content helped or hurt the modern man? Let's talk legacy, masculinity, and the ripple effect it's had on how we show up. Let's dive in. This is a great topic as well, because it challenges us to look at,
To be critical of ourselves.
to be critical of ourselves. And I always love the self reflection. Everything starts with a self reflection. You got, before you open your fucking mouth, you better see what's going on in yourself and see what you're doing first.
What that good book say? Don't worry about the dust in my eyes. Worry about the what is it? I think the stick or the one in yours, whatever that scripture is.
Yeah, something like that.
Something like that.
Well,
the plank,
yeah,
the plank
right.
of yours. That's what it is.
Right.
I think that's what it is. But nevertheless, the ultimate moral of that lesson was, like, to your point, like you got to know self-reflection first.
Definitely.
So I think, to your point, this is an excellent question, especially for us, being two American men and living in the climate that we're living in, and what's been happening, from all levels of life and all the areas of people activity, because again, this topic is rippling, through every area of politics, and I'm seeing it now on TV shows. They got a whole show on Netflix right now, Adolescence, about the red pill content.
Wow.
I'm seeing it. And it's fascinating to me. So I'm glad that we had this opportunity to discuss this topic, because again, I'm pretty sure there's a lot of individuals who would love to hear what two American men have to say about it.
And basically, to my understanding, the red pill are individuals and people who look at the world not for how it's given to them or presented to them. They look at the deeper meaning to things, the why of things. They ask questions. They do further research and just get an understanding from themselves,
Mm-hmm.
so they can understand it for themselves and their lives, and not necessarily compared to the blue pill, where you take it as it's presented. They
Right.
they give
You
you
accept it for what it is.
you accept it for what it is. Like they tell you to do this, and do that, and you like, okay, I'm going to do this and do this and do that. Where the red pill person will look into each step a little more deeper to get a clearer understanding and to get a better perspective of if that works for that person.
Mm-hmm.
Because you could have a plan, like we were saying, like the American dream, go to school, get a job, get married, buy a house, have kids, retire, Social Security, and then you die.
So again, to level set it, we're gonna use that, and moving forward, that's the print map. That's the printed map.
That's the printed
American
map.
dream.
Right. And then so
That's the blue pill.
and that's the blueprint and the blue pill that they give you to go ahead and do. But as we see and as we've learned and as we lived, we've seen that necessarily doesn't render the outcomes that we would like or that we are aspiring to have.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? So we look at each step along the way. We look at it more in detail, more in depth, and really get an understanding to make a decision if that step works for me.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that's what the red pill represents. People that are leaders.
So not to cut your wisdom off again, the red pill now being GPS.
Yeah.
So now we've set the stage. Like, that's the dynamic we talking about moving forward. The blue pill, in a sense, is the map, the printed map. What, like you said, what was just presented as, is the red pill is constant, real time changes, real time updates.
Mm-hmm.
So now that we got that, we can have this discussion moving forward.
What is the red pill, guys? The red pill essentially comes down to, I'm not going with the norm. I gotta be able to think outside of the box. Red pill aware, this is what it is. stepping outside and looking at the truth. That's a very good thing, especially when it comes to women. The more you go against the grain, the more you start to think to yourself and not follow the masses, the more you can stand out to women. Because guess what? Guys are doing the same thing. All I believe in, guys, is being outstanding. And that's how every guy should be. Start looking at everything that you're being told and say, you know what? Is that how it really is? Is that the real truth? Don't just follow directions just because it sounds good.
Pretty good explanation.
Yeah. Think outside the box.
Overall concept, you know what I'm saying? And to his point, as a premise, like just the bigger picture here is, as he said, the red pill being thinking outside the box, whereas the blue pill is just following the norm.
Mm-hmm.
So again, the norm being in this case, in this world we call America, the American dream, like you just described: go to school, go to college, graduate, get a job, get the family started, work, retire, live off Social Security, die. Like that's the norm. And living outside of that, thinking outside of that box, like that's where the resistance comes into play. From my perspective, with people with the red pill, specifically as it comes to now the male-female relationship, is because before social media and the prevalent access to, you know, our deepest, darkest thoughts, you know, we didn't have access to each other in this way. As men and women, you know, it was just men had their spaces, women had their spaces, and we came together to do life, you know. But outside socially, there really wasn't no, you know, congregation in that regards. But now that we have, you know, social media, we're all connected all the time, and we're all sharing it all the time. So it's like now men is seeing, you know, women's, you know, quote unquote, you know, deepest, darkest behavior. Women are seeing men's deepest, darkest behavior, and we're both turned off and repulsed by that. And so now we're at a point where it's just like you said, like, you know, we're at this perceived gender war, you know what I'm saying, where now there is an attack on men for quote unquote buying into the red pill content, to the point where, you know, there can like mainstream campaigns against it, you know what I'm saying? But that's why, you know, personally I push back, only because it's just like I like you said, I don't understand what the problem is with men operating from places of uncomfortable truth, as opposed to just accepting that ignorance is bliss, you know what I'm saying? Or just being like, oh, well, this is how it's supposed to be, or this is the printed map of what it is, like this is how you're supposed to be, or this is what you quote unquote should be doing. But it's just like, nah, I'm operating off of a GPS, and in real time, like this is where it's saying the direction I need to go. You know what I mean? And so, all in all, it's just like, has this red pill stuff ruined men? It's just like, yes, I do think that there are some groups of men who have taken it to an extreme, and it has ruined them. And but again, like anything else or any other movement, of course, like those are the elements that are going to get the national spotlight. But overall, generally speaking, as far as the average individual, the average male, no, I don't think it's ruined them. I think it's awakened them. I think it's enlightened them. I think it's to your point, they've become aware now. They're able to move with a lot more awareness in life, and make better decisions, you know, for themselves as men. Because again, without men being men, then the society falls. It will crumble. And so I don't see what the problem is with men. Well, I do see what the problem is, but I understand why men have decided now to operate from a place of these uncomfortable truths, as opposed to the quote unquote the norms of society.
Yeah. Do you think that the red pill affects women different than it affects men? In what ways?
Well, I do not think that it is a gender-based distinction in that regards, because again, uncomfortable truth is uncomfortable truth regardless of our gender, and you know, following the norm is following the norm, you know, regardless of the gender. And so, from my perspective, you know, in my opinion, the problem is that, again, we got predominantly, you know, there's men and women who are operating off of the printed map. But for some reason, the people that got these printed maps, they're trying to deal with men. These women, I should say, are trying to deal with men that got GPS, and it's just like the women with the printed map. They're just like, you guys should be doing it, you know, like this. But the guys is just like, nah, we got GPS. We don't operate like that.
Mm-hmm.
So then, the ladies with the map, they still dealing with the guys with GPS, and then when the guys with GPS, pull off and go on about their business, it's just like, oh, he's abandoned me. But it's just like, nah, he didn't abandon you. He told you from the gate, like, he don't operate off of a map. Just because you operate off of a map.
So what's the flip side to that? So if you
It's
have
the same for the male though. Like,
Yeah,
you got men out here that's got the map and they trying to deal with a woman with a GPS.
right. So does that give I guess let me explain what I'm saying. Because a lot of the tendencies that we say that the red pill possesses in men are generally qualities that we would label as masculine when we're talking about women. And so if you have the woman in this red pill quote unquote uh dynamic, is it so do we want to see the woman going against the grain and whatever the case may be, and being ahead of things and not going with the norm, or do we really want our women to be more traditional and not these people that are like looking into it deep and changing things and whatever the case may be?
Well,
Because it seems I guess I'm kind of blurring the lines with the blue pill being more like traditional, and
no, the blue
doing it
pill
the way,
is traditional,
right. So will we say
quote unquote traditional.
so do we want a traditional woman? So do we want our woman do the blue pill complement the woman to be with a man that's red pill, or is it red pill woman, red pill man, or is it blue pill man and blue pill woman, or is it blue pill woman is compatible with the red pill man?
Well, to
You understand what I'm saying?
yeah, 100%. And to that point, I say again, it all goes back to paradigm. So map, GPS. Now, when it comes to maps, as we know with anything else, is more than one publisher.
Mm-hmm.
So we got the Thomas Guide, we got the AAA, we got the National Geographic.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where the alignment has to come into play. So if you a map person, like, you got to be in alignment with a person. So if you got the AAA map, you got to be with somebody with a AAA map. You go still be out of alignment as a map person if you're trying to deal with somebody that's a Thomas Guide or the National Geographic map. Same thing with the GPS. You got Waze, you got Apple Maps, or you got Google Maps. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's different, still different alignment. So as an Apple Map guy, my directions is not gonna be the same as the Google Maps. It's not. Even though we are operating off GPS. So that's why I say you have to have a conversation and there has to be alignment. You guys have to have it,
So
men
personally,
and women.
for you, would you choose a woman that has the traditional views, or would you choose a woman that has the ask questions, go outside the box type of views as yourself?
Well, it all goes back again, like,
No, I'm just asking,
publisher.
like,
That's what I'm
what would
saying.
you
Like,
want?
what is her map? I don't. Me personally.
She has the traditional. She's the traditional
Well,
blue
again,
pill.
but that's my point. What is traditional? We just say these broad terms and they're just vague terms.
I
Because
mean, we could
again,
define what traditional
but
is.
to me,
What's traditional to
to
you?
me, traditional would be
Exactly.
something that, like I would say, my grandmothers, my granny and my great granny, that when we go to Arkansas, like, those would be quote unquote traditional women to me. Now, those traditional women would based upon quote unquote society's definition of traditional, would not be considered traditional women.
No, I'm talking about you. Like, what do
That's
you?
so my granny, like, those type of women would be traditional to me. So
Okay.
to me, yeah, I can deal with a woman that thinks like my granny and then my great granny.
Mm-hmm.
Like, those type of women, those, I would say they're traditional. Because again, those are women but again, even traditional had its own blue pill, red pill, because you had traditional in regards to, like, they always say, remember, oh yeah, we was poor, we didn't have the luxury of nobody sitting around and working and being taken care of. Like, everybody works, everybody eats, so everybody works.
Mm-hmm.
So it was traditional for them to everybody work, from the youngest baby boy or girl to the oldest baby boy or girl. So traditionally speaking, now to some people they wouldn't define. A lot of women wouldn't define that as today wouldn't define what I just described as traditional.
Mm-hmm.
They would say that no, those are working women. They're non-traditional women, because traditional women are stay-at-home wives who just sit up and get taken care of a man, because it's masculine, as you just alluded to, for a woman to have to work to provide and worry about bills. Like a traditional woman doesn't have to do that. She's more of a lady of leisure than she is a working woman. So to me, I would never find myself, in the desert, stranded around the world with a woman that thinks like that. Like personally, I will walk around go the other way if I hear a woman speaking like that. Personally,
Like what?
the latter what I described, the latter version of traditional.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? But the one I described, like I could be with a woman like that because we on the same page. So again, I don't get mixed up into people's personal interpretation of red pill and blue pill. I stay with the concept as it was introduced to us in the Matrix in 1999, where it said the red pill represent you accept uncomfortable truths in life, whereas the blue pill represents, you just go with the norm of what's been presented to you. You accept reality for what it appears to be. That's all the red pill and blue pill represents to me. So there are women who accept life as uncomfortable. The uncomfortable truths in life and move accordingly. And there are men who accept the uncomfortable truths in life and move accordingly. And in my opinion, those are the people who are in alignment for long-term relationships, male or female.
Gotcha.
Then there's the men and women who are accepting reality as it appears. And they, in my opinion, are the best people in alignment. So I'm not a follow the norm or accept reality as it appears kind of guy. So that would be considered red pill according to the Matrix. So I'd be Neo, you know what I'm saying, or Morpheus, or all them types of people. All those guys. Like I've taken that red pill. Like I've accepted that there are uncomfortable truths in life, and I have to work through them to move forward. I'm not accepting reality as it appears. Like the majority of people in the world, the map followers. Like I understand that as a red pill guy. Now, when we get into the misogyny, the toxic masculinity, all that kind of stuff, I can't help you when it comes to that. When it comes to the red pill and blue pill, because now you've taken that concept and redressed it as something else. I can't mess with. I don't have anything to say about that. But if you want to just talk about uncomfortable truth and accepting the reality as it appears from the red pill, blue pill conversation, we can talk about that. In my opinion, if from that perspective, like, no, I don't believe that has ruined, or nor will it ever ruin generations of men, because those types of men have always existed. Those are the men in positions of power. You feel me? Like the men in positions of power aren't accepting reality as is. Case in point, just an example, Donald Trump, he ain't accepting America as it is. He's not following the norm.
Not at all.
That's red pill.
Not at all.
He's talking about the uncomfortable truths from his perspective, or his party's perspective, or whoever. But from their perspective, as he's the president, this is what I'm seeing as the uncomfortable truths of this nation. In this case, whatever the case is, that's what it is. And I'm doing what I'm going to do to quote unquote transform the situation. I'm not accepting the norm here. I'm not accepting the reality of this is what it is. But then the previous administration was like, nah, we got to keep this show going. This is how it's always been. If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Right.
So we just going to continue on this follow. Let the show go on. You know what I'm saying? So that's what I'm saying. Like uncomfortable truth and accepting reality as it appears. Like those are my two things. And it's just like, in my opinion, like, no, it hasn't ruined a generation of men when it comes to that. But
so why do they think it's ruining? Like, what is it that makes them feel
they've redressed it to like represent what they wanted to represent?
How is it translated to toxicity? Now, how has it become toxic to be the red pill and not, to not accept uncomfortable?
So here's my theory.
Accept uncomfortable truths.
Here's my theory on that. We have to always, again, what type of society do we live in? Capitalistic. So this is a society that is based on consumption. Again, disclaimer, this is just my personal theory and opinion. Who benefits from men not being aimless consumers? Does the system benefit from that, or do men benefit from that?
Benefit from men not being consumers?
Aimless consumers. Lustful consumers.
from not being that? Who
Yes.
benefits from that?
Yeah.
The man himself will benefit from
Not
that.
the system.
Not the system, right?
So if men aren't taking women on dates, if men aren't marrying women and having these grand weddings, then who's booking the hotels, the venues, who's buying the wedding dresses, who's spending the money on the caterers, who's funding these every Friday night the white tablecloth restaurants, you know what I'm saying? Who's funding this? If the men aren't taking the women out on dates, but the men aren't taking women out on dates because now they've quote unquote seen the women's quote unquote true nature. That women aren't necessarily interested in the man. She's just interested in what the man can do for her, as they see it in most cases. They're not interested in me and who I am. They're just interested in what I can do for them.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's typically how the man is viewing it. And so it's like, well, if that's the uncomfortable truth I have to live with, that a woman is not necessarily interested in me and who I am, she's not going to quote unquote love me for who I am, then okay, I'm not going to just deal with women who don't want to deal with me. You know what I'm saying? And like, so if that means I'm not going to be aimlessly and lustfully consuming and taking her out on dates and trying to buy her gifts and paying her rents, if I'm not going to engage in that activity, then you know what I'm saying? Then now we got businesses closing, ring bridal shops, ring companies closing, and we're seeing it. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
We're seeing these things happening because men have accepted these uncomfortable truths, and in most cases, from the language I've seen out there in these streets, that it's just like, all right, well, again, if I'm going to be invisible to the majority of women in the world. And then the ones that do kind of give me the time of day, they're just basically going to, be treating me, disrespectfully. Then it's just like, nah, like, I'm not going to deal with that. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'd rather just be by myself and just, be on my purpose and do my thing and enjoy life. You know what I'm saying? In real time. You know what I mean? And do my thing. And then when I meet a woman who is in alignment with me, then I'll go ahead and take her seriously. But in the meantime, between time, it's just like I'll just see how it goes.
Yeah. So this is definitely a topic that we can keep going, and I'm can't wait to get into the comments on this topic because I'm sure just the term red pill and blue pill is a trigger in a lot of people, and it means a lot of things for a lot of different people, and people interpret it different ways. That's why I was asking the question that I was asking, because there's the interpretation of red and blue pill is subjective to the person that's perceiving it, or whatever the case, or
it is
to the person that's taking the pill.
But to your point, it is subjective, but again, it's still rooted in the origin. So with any concept, we always have to begin at the origin. So the origin of the red pill, blue pill was the Matrix. Like I remember that was the first time I saw it.
Mm-hmm.
I heard people start talking about it.
Mm-hmm.
And like you said, who was it, your uncle, your grandfather was like, oh, that's a deep movie.
Oh yeah, Pops.
Yeah.
Remember Pop, y'all? Remember Pop when the Matrix came out? He preached about it and everything.
So it's like,
shout out to Bishop Struther.
Bishop Struther shouts out. But again, it's based upon everybody's interpretation of it at this point, and it is developed into full movements. Where again, you got the quote unquote manosphere, and then so to play devil's advocate, because again, we're gonna always look at all angles of it. So again, now being objective, I can look at the flip side of this argument now.
Mm-hmm.
So again, as a woman and in some men, who the red pill will call blue pillars, excuse me. Again, the blue pillars, they're trying to maintain the status quo, maintain the norm, in this case, going back to now the whole concept of what is traditional. So traditionally, it's like what I'm realizing is most of the blue pillars concept of tradition is based upon affluent, American households of European descent. Like that's what represents tradition.
Okay.
The woman is a stay-at-home wife or mother, while the man goes out and works his white collar job and makes all the money and comes home and cracks open a cold one and hangs out with the family. Like that's most people's concept of what a traditional relationship represents, from my perspective.
Mm-hmm.
What about you? You see that?
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. I would agree.
So, with that being said, again, the man is the provider and the protector, and at this point, the woman has no role. You know what I'm saying? She has no labels. Well,
She
no,
does have a
her
role.
labels. So, well, now in this case, traditionally, within this paradigm, her labels, I take it back, are she's a woman of leisure.
Uh, okay, keep going.
Traditionally,
I wouldn't say leisure. That means it's like she don't have nothing to do. Like she's
but
just
that's my point. When I'm hearing women describe themselves in this modern world as a traditional woman, I'm hearing them describe themselves as a woman of leisure. She has no responsibilities. She has no accountabilities because she's supposed to have a full time staff for her personal needs as well as the household's personal needs. She's not a household manager. That's going to burn her out. You know what I'm saying? She has a goal. She needs support from everybody to make that happen. She has a dream of her own. And you know what I'm saying, she has a life. Again, she is married in this case, but she's still living her life as a single entity because she had this going on before this man came into her life and wanted to have this family with her.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying? Like, but again, she, when it comes to like family stuff and the husband stuff, it's like, I'm a woman of leisure when it comes to that. But when it comes to her dream, now she's a boss. She's a boss babe. She's an independent woman. She's educated, that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I'm saying. Like that's what I'm hearing them describe themselves as. So in that regards, their concept of traditional is again the inverse of mine. Because the women I grew up with or was raised by that I view as traditional, they shun those type of women that I just described as these women of leisure.
But one would argue that that woman that you just described would be considered a red pill woman.
Which one?
The one you just
The
described.
woman of leisure?
Yeah, the one that wants to.
This is my point.
The one that
This
wants
is
to
my point.
be able to be leisure with the family, but still be a boss babe and yada yada yada. So that's the minor woman, which will be
I
defined
agree.
nowadays as the red pill woman. Is more so.
Oh, that's what they saying is the red
Well,
pill woman?
well, that's just what I'm just putting out there for
Oh.
conversation purposes.
Oh.
Is there any correlation with that red? Because like men
Well,
and women are different. We're separate, so we're wired different. We think things
Mhm.
different, and our role as it relates to being together is different.
Yes.
So if I'm gonna if I as a man take the red pill and that makes me more go against the grain, not take things for what is presented, not do the normal, look into it.
Mm-hmm.
So what is that effect on the woman? And I think the effect on the woman will make her not be as the traditional woman, stay home,
I
be.
beg to differ. Like, well,
That's what I'm just.
I mean,
out there
I
for
beg to differ
conversation.
because I like how aren't a quote how wouldn't a quote unquote traditional woman that's a stay at home wife or whatever you want to label it as, like she's she there's women who stay at home who have accepted uncomfortable truths. Oh, this educational system is trash. I need to homeschool my children.
Mm-hmm.
In my opinion, that's a red pill decision. She's not going with the norm or accepting reality as it appears of American education being spectacular.
That's a real pill decision, but that's not a real pill person. Like she's still.
But it's
like
fluid. It's fluid.
If she's home and she's like, oh, I want to homeschool my children, that means she's accepted the whole role of being the manager of home. Like she accepted that. But I'm saying
But she could go with the norm of the norm as it is today is I'm gonna be a career woman and I'm gonna outsource motherhood.
Right, which is a different type of woman. That's a woman who has a different view, and
Her primary focus is on career,
right? So
not family.
Exactly. So
Yes.
is that a difference?
I don't think, in my opinion, like that has nothing to do with you being red or blue pill. There are red pill women who are focused on career. There are red pill women who are focused on family.
So describe a red pill woman that's focused on family.
She homeschools in this current climate because the norm is to send your kid to school.
So that's the only factor.
No, I'm just saying that's an example. You asked for an example. I would say that would be an example.
Okay.
She homeschools. She whatever the norm is. So as opposed to her daughters,
so she
being able to wear next to nothing to prom, her daughters wear clothes. As opposed to her sons being able to run the streets all hours of the night, no, her sons got a curfew.
Okay.
I would consider that red pill.
Okay.
She accepts the uncomfortable truths of life, like these streets is be wilding. Y'all gonna have be in the house at these hours.
So her wanting to be a boss chick and and advance her career over said household, is that still red pill, or is that
I don't see the connection.
it has nothing to do with that?
In my opinion, that ain't got nothing to do with a woman or man being red pill or blue pill.
It has nothing to do with how she feel her role
If
is at home.
if a woman is in the position in her household where the uncomfortable truth is like, damn, I've married a loser. You know what I'm saying? He ain't productive. He ain't responsible. He's irresponsible. You know what I'm saying? He be blowing the rent money on gambling or he a wino, whatever it is.
Mhm.
In my opinion, if she has to quote unquote boss up, that's just her accepting the uncomfortable truth of her situation and doing something about it.
Mhm.
So if that makes her quote unquote red pill, that would make her red pill in my opinion.
Mhm.
But that doesn't mean that she's not quote unquote feminine
No, we
or
didn't say
anything
that.
of that. But she just accepted the
Mm-mm.
uncomfortable truth of her situation. Even if he was doing everything he was supposed to do, and if she still decided to, I'm gonna still boss up and go to work and outsource parenting, but I'm doing this because we have a goal of, raising our zero. And if me working is going to help us raise our zero, then I'm gonna accept the uncomfortable truth of not being a stay at home mom or not being a quote unquote provider for her. I'm gonna go work and put this money in to this pot with my husband so we can raise our zero.
And also, the uncomfortable truth is, okay, it might be better for me to stay home
Mm-hmm.
and raise the children
Mm-hmm.
and be a housewife.
Exactly.
And that's what I was trying to get at. Like, it can be the uncomfortable.
That's my point.
truth that
It's
it could
situational.
be, right.
I
Right.
guess your red pillness or blue. Going back to more reason, it's all on convenience. What's the situation?
Mm-hmm.
But
So,
even if all is well from the man and the woman, they both check off each other's boxes.
so to prove your point, so it's not. You got to go back to the core of it. Is what are you a person that accepts the uncomfortable truth
Of your situation.
of your situation,
Yep.
or do you take it for the way it's presented and you just go with it?
Mm-hmm.
And that's what you said initially. That is based on those two principles.
Mhm.
Matter of fact, and you can get variations of said principle on both sides of both sides of the coin,
Mhm.
but it should be rooted and fundamentally grounded in those two uh, principles. You accept it, and so as a man, you can accept the uncomfortable truth that your woman does make more than you.
Mm-hmm.
That could be the uncomfortable truth that your woman makes more than you, and that you ain't shit. You could be a loser. You could everything you do, you fuck up.
Mhm.
You can't keep a job. You got an addiction to alcohol or drugs or video games or whatever the case may be.
Mm-hmm.
And you can accept that uncomfortable truth and proceed accordingly.
Yep.
And
Or not.
or not.
And just continue to accept reality as it appears.
Right.
Blue pill.
Right.
So
Right.
then I was about to say, we can go through some examples real quick. So for example, you got the blue pill guy, and by blue pill and red pill again, we're going off of what our current state of society or America, American dream. So again, you got the guy who thinks like, I'm a go to school, I'm a go to college, I'm gonna get myself established, get a good job, I'm gonna get a house, and I'm gonna move a woman into this house, and then I'm gonna just all is gonna be well. That's quote unquote blue pill.
Mm-hmm.
Now, red pill men will be like, nah, that ain't how it works. You know what I'm saying? You just can't do that. You know what I'm saying? Like, again, red pill men, which is why I think, they say it's ruined. Why they have said it has ruined generations of men is because now red pill men are being critical of women's behavior. So it's just like, a red pill man is just not going to just accept her as a woman just because she's a woman in his own mind. Like, I think she's this type of woman. Or this is how she's presenting herself. This is how she appears. I'm gonna just accept her as she appears.
Mm-hmm.
A red pill guy, he's questioning everything.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So wait a minute. You mean to tell me you one of the baddest chicks that's ever walked the land? And, you know what I'm saying? And at 45 years old, it ain't all the men that you don't cross paths with just missed on the good thing. You know what I'm saying? So again, he's questioning her. You know, he's questioning her. And like anything else, I understand from a woman's perspective, who is operating from a quote unquote blue pill perspective of okay, like yeah, I just gotta, like you said, a man is supposed to go get himself established, and then he's just supposed to bring a woman into his household, and then you know he's just supposed to let me, be a stay at home wife, and I do what I do. You know what I'm saying? I understand that if that's how she thinking, then yeah, she has a problem with a man questioning her behaviors or her past or anything like that. So it's just, but that's what I'm saying is like men and women, you know, whether they quote unquote are accepting uncomfortable truths or they are or the accept reality as it appears crowd, you've got to have a discussion with whoever you feel quote unquote sexually attracted to see if y'all are even on the same. Are they if you a Matt person, are they a Matt person, and do y'all even got the same publisher? And it's like, yeah, I understand that it does take away what people will feel like that quote unquote chemistry or that natural feeling. But if it's somebody that you're interested in, you know, being quote unquote business partners for life with, because that's, you know, my perspective of marriage. You know what I'm saying? Like when it all comes down to it, like your mate, your spouse, that's somebody you gotta handle the business of life with from the first day to your last day on this planet Earth. So that's what y'all are more than, you know, quote unquote sexual companions.
Right.
You feel me? So it's like I'm not about to make my decision to be with a wife based upon, you know, my lust for a sexual companion. You know, I have to make it based upon this is going to be a woman I'm going to have to be a business partner in life with. So I need her to be, you know, practical and reasonable in those regards. I can't have her just trying to spend the whole relationship trying to manipulate me and leverage with holding sex over my head. So I can't do it.
Yeah.
You feel me?
Yeah, I think we got another video out there.
Let's get to it.
Further understand. I guess I was getting ahead of myself, you know, being that I knew what this video was about. So it'll probably make more sense now. Let's play the video.
The blue pill is the modern sort of big programmed popular script. Essentially, you're automatically blue pilled because of society, conditioning, education system, media, especially if you're in like these Western degenerate countries. The blue pill is this idea that to get girls, all you need to do is be nice. What's happened with the blue pill is that they've convinced men that the way to attract women is to be feminine. It's to open up, it's to talk about your emotions, it's that men cry, you know, they've taught these things, and I'm not like mocking like men crying or something, mental health is a serious thing, but to attract women, absolutely not. To attract women, this is like a false program that's been pushed into all the young men of today. Why do you think so many young men are struggling? Why do you think so many young men are like messaging girls? Like you probably experienced, bro, you're messaging a girl, you're texting her, and you know, having a fun time, sending memes and stuff, and then eventually you find out she's fucking some random guy who doesn't even seem to be into her. The blue pill script does not work, and young men are waking up to this, and they're
So with that video, it was just giving the, you know, the blue pill take on it, and just you know playing devil's advocate to a certain degree, you know. So that's what I was getting at, you know, having that already in the back of my mind, like how does it relate to the blue pill and the red pill as it relates to men and women, because I believe it, you know, because it's subject to that person and whatever the realities that they have to accept or not accept, you know what I mean? So therefore, like we came to the conclusion, it's based on the two principles, you know, either you're a person that accepts uncomfortable truths or you're a person that
accepts reality as it appears.
And
again, you accept reality as it appears, not as it is, as it appears,
as it's presented. Yeah,
that's the very big point.
Yeah,
and so, but like you said, all of us are pretty much born blue pilled because we are all just conditioned automatically to accept the reality as it appears until we start to
Western civilization.
Yeah, we like I said, the American dream.
Yeah, yep.
You know, we all are born into the blue pilledness of the American dream until life starts lifing, and then we start to break away from it because we start asking questions. You know, we start seeing uncomfortable truths of it, and then again, it's like some of us, you know, go off the deep end, some of us don't. But at the end of the day, has the red pill ruined generations of men? No. Being critical, yeah, there's always space for improvement, of course. You know what I'm saying? Kaizen. It's a Japanese principle that focuses on constant improvement, and I believe that like it's in all human beings' best interest to be in a constant state of improvement. But
Yep.
again, we got to get away from these vague, hiding behind these vague words like improvement. So it's like, but improvement in what? So it's like, as men, it's just like, yeah, of course, we know we want to help. We want to be improving our health, wealth, and our relationships. We want better quality relationships with or the people that we associate with, family, friends. You know what I'm saying, as well as our spouse. We do want to have more wealth. We want to raise our zero. We want to increase our net worth.
Right.
We want better health. We do want to eat clean. We do want to exercise. We do want to do those things. So that's what the improvement will be to me. The improvement isn't making somebody else happy. You know what I'm saying? The improvement isn't, what I'm saying, giving somebody what they want, what they feel like they deserve because you did this or you didn't do that, or they've done this or they haven't done that. Like, that ain't what the improvement is to me.
Right.
You feel me? So that's what I'm saying. Men and women, we do have to have a conversation. We just can't get caught up into just hiding behind these big words of traditional, of religious. Like, what do you mean by you religious? What do you mean by you traditional? What does that look like to you? Now, I don't want to hear about what you heard it looks like, but because I already know I've heard what it looks like too. But what is your specific perspective on it?
Right.
I don't want to hear how you perceive traditional. I want your perspective on traditional. Two different arguments. I mean, two different discussions right there.
Facts.
So again, get clear. Know who you are. Know who you want. Are you a uncomfortable or accepting uncomfortable type of choose person? If you are, then again, in my mind, you would be red pill. Regardless if you masculine, feminine, brown, white, it don't matter to me. Like, that's where I just draw. That's why I full stop. You either accept uncomfortable truths, or you either accept the uncomfortable truths of reality, or you accept reality as it appears. Like, that's it. That's where I draw the line on the whole red pill, blue pill, and we go from there. But as far as everything else, y'all's redressing or reinterpretation of the concept, in my opinion, it's just a whole nother concept.
Got you.
You know what I'm saying? So it's not, and they have created, because you got the pink pill, you got the purple pill,
Oh, they got
you got
that.
the orange
I'm
pill.
sure there
You
could
know
be
what I'm
a
saying? You got the black pill. You know what I'm saying? Like, people,
It's imaginary. There's a placebo.
yeah, they got all they got all kind of pills, but
So I'm very interested to hear your take on this in the comments and hear what you gravitate to and how it translate in your own life, the red versus the blue pill. Which one are you? All right, so that brings us to one of my favorite segments.
yes, sir.
Responding directly to your comments. This is where we engage you and with our programming, and we dive into your ripples to make more ripples.
So as always, we coming from the digital streets of TikTok, and this topic was from the episode 7. The clip was, most people do long-term intimate relationships wrong. Here's the right way. So we got a comment. Oh, she just said interesting. Mia, your mystic therapist, interesting. But again, I've noticed that it's all because. All right, here's another video right here. Next comment, because again, interesting ain't really, we can't really work with that.
Yeah, I agree. It is interesting,
but it was interesting.
I
concept.
agree.
All right, next video.
A lot of people liked it. Had a lot of views too.
Yeah. So yeah, going back to it, it did have, as you said, 943 views, which is basically like two theaters, 500 amphitheaters worth of people. You feel me? That's a lot. All right, next. It's all because we had the video where it was like, if you want to be successful with money, then stop doing this on a daily basis. This is where we were talking about anticipation.
Okay.
But it's like, wishes fulfilled. Don't focus on what it is. Stop wanting, or you'll stay in want. This is when we were just talking about, again, like managing that dopamine in regards to kind of like social media and stuff like that. So there's like wishes fulfilled. Yeah. Don't focus on what is, again, how it appears. Stop wanting and you'll stay in want, or you'll stay in want. So again, if you keep yearning and anticipating these things, you will keep wanting until you get the reality
Yeah.
of it, and then I was actually just doing some homework on just storytelling, and that's actually one of the points he was making. He was like, expectation versus reality.
Mm-hmm.
That's like the psychological component here. When it comes to us wanting stuff, or especially when it comes with money, us wanting to be rich or wealthy, we think we understand what it is. So again, we create these expectations. Then once we get to that quote unquote milestone and we see the reality of it, then that's part of what factors into us coming quote unquote down, is because the reality didn't meet the expectation.
Mm-hmm.
The flip side of that, though, is when expectations are low, but reality supersedes expectation. That's where you get that state of fulfillment, that nirvana, things of that nature.
Right.
You feel me? Because again, you had such low expectations for something, but it ended up being, and we've all experienced it. I'm pretty sure you've been in situations where it's like an event, and you're like, "Damn, I don't want to go to this event." You start creating excuses for yourself not to go. But then you go and you be like, damn, I'm glad I came to this. You know what I'm saying? This beat my expectations.
That happens to me all the time.
It happens to all of us
all the time.
But we don't take it. We don't look at it critically from that perspective, though. Of all right, well, this was when I'm having these types of experiences. That's when my expectations was low for something, but reality superseded my expectations.
Right.
But when I'm feeling bad, that's when I had high expectations, and the reality didn't meet my expectations.
Yep.
But that helps us now manage our mood, manage our emotions.
Mm-hmm.
Because now we understand what's happening.
Mm-hmm.
We know that it's just not something happened to us. It's like, oh, okay, my expectations were high for this one,
Yeah, I think as it relates to this comment, the person was saying, stop wanting,
or you'll stay in
or
want.
you'll stay in want, and it's like, it made me think of the Bible verse that says, "The Lord is my shepherd; I shall not want." So maybe putting wanting something. What is wanting something?
Desire.
Yeah, that's desiring after something.
Anticipation,
anticipating,
fantasy,
craving,
imagination,
wanting. So it's not good to live in want. It shouldn't be about wanting to the point where you just stay that you just keep saying I want it, I want it. One has to turn into action.
Well, that's what I was gonna say. I think the problem is a lot of people just want things and they don't take action
to get what they want. Right.
They just want it. I think that's maybe what they're alluding to as well. Because again, if you just I want this, then but you never put no action behind it, and you just in the perpetual state of want, then again you're not gonna make no progress.
You'll stay there.
Stay stagnant.
You'll stay there.
So let's see. I think there was one more video. Yeah, here we go right here. So this one was they told us men and women were wired differently, but did they leave this out? So again, they told us men and women were wired differently, but did they leave this out? So this was or we're just talking about I think one of the dopamine. Yeah, the dopamine and the paradigms, yeah. So first comment says, "Honey, sun kiss, we're overloaded with the mental and physical load of life. We wish there was more dopamine. Watch Inside Out and you'll get a hint of our brains."
Let's read it again. Honey Sunkiss.
She said
that's her name?
Yeah, Honey Sunshine. Honey Sunkiss is the user.
Oh, okay, got you.
And then their comment was, "We're overloaded with the mental and physical load of life. We wish there was more dopamine. Watch Inside Out 2 and you'll get a hint of our brains."
Oh, Inside Out 2, the movie.
Yeah.
Okay, got you.
Yeah.
Oh, so she's saying she wished they had more dopamine.
Because remember you were talking about like we were talking about how like how a woman's brain might be more sensitive
could it be
to
wired
receive.
different. Yeah. So maybe she's saying they need more dopamine.
No, she said we're overloaded. Oh well, yeah. Wish there was more. Well, again, but again, her concept of saying we're overloaded mentally and physically, it's like again going back to that, like you're just perceiving yourself to be mentally overloaded.
Mm-hmm.
And it is a perception because again, we control, we perceive our life. The language we use to interpret life is what it ultimately becomes.
Mm-hmm.
So some people perceive just what most people can see basic adulting in life. There are people who are legal adults who view that as mentally and physically overloading.
So what I'm gonna say to you in my response, I'm going to watch Inside Out too.
Me too, right?
Because I seen the first one and I really liked it. So I'm gonna watch that and then I'm gonna circle back to your comment and then we're gonna give you a solid response.
Then it says the next one is Devoning Lover 849. They said very good point or very great point that I think is never brought up. It's like, yeah, it isn't brought up. We know it's rarely talked about. But the reality is I think that there is some action there in regards. I would love to see some science research or some studies done on that.
Yeah.
Maybe there have been
There
some
may
done
be.
of that,
I'm-
so we
I'm
can look
pretty
into
sure.
it. Does dopamine, do women need more or less than men, or vice versa? Do men need more or less than men? Or are women's brains more sensitive to it than men's brains are to it? Who knows? I would love to know.
All right. So you doing another one?
I think we are done. Yeah, we're done. Everything.
All right,
We don't
cool.
have any more, at least for this week. So
All right,
again,
cool beans.
go to TikTok, comment, subscribe, and we'll make it do what it do.
What we eat, how we think, and how we believe, those are the codes that shape our lives. Today, we broke down how the color of food isn't just visual, it's functional. What we put in our bodies is literally fueling different parts of who we are. Then we shifted gears and talked about raising your zero, redefining your financial baseline, not just to flex, but to build discipline and freedom. And finally, we tackled the red pill conversation. Not just the hype or the hate, but the intention behind it, the truth, the distortion, and what it's doing to the generation of men. Every one of these topics points back to one thing: accountability. You are the programmer. Your body, your money, your mindset. You're in control. So we hope these topics and segments resonated with you. Feel free to comment, make sure you liking and you're subscribing and you're sharing and you're rippling all these thoughts and emotions out into the universe, into these digital streets, triggering responses, letting us know how you feel. And we're going to keep giving you the great content to comment on. So until the next time, keep thinking, keep asking questions, and keep the ripples flowing. I'm Quattro.
I'm Diesel.
Holla.